Good afternoon, Thomas. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Mr. Lim. How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
It's
Uh,
good to see
it
your
must be
smiling face.
yes, it must be a very busy week for you, right? We just completed completed the TESOL conference last week, and as you may know, we CCML just successfully organized this international conference on TESOL last week, and Thomas was one of the speakers. And today, we meet again for the second webinars in the series of 4 webinars for school teachers in Vietnam. So may I request you to please turn on your camera while joining the webinar if you can. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Lin, I think you were a very busy man last week yourself, busier than me. I think you were kind of helping a lot of speakers, weren't you?
Yes. Yes, I was the moderator for some sessions. The whole team of Asima Rijak were very busy with the conference, but the good thing is that it was successful. And I think that some of the participants today also joined the TESOL conference last week. Next week, we will have another face-to-face training workshop with Dr. Kitty from Biola University in California. She is conducting a workshop in Lang Sơn and Vinh University. And on Monday, she will deliver 2 other workshops, one for school teachers and one for university lecturers here at CML Retrack. So it's 2 p.m. now, so I think it's time for us to start the webinar. Thank you very much, everyone, for turning on your camera to join the webinar this afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the second webinar series on methods and skills in English teaching and learning, hosted by CML Regional Training Center, CML Retrack in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and sponsored by Regional English Language Office, U.S. Embassy in Hanoi. The webinar series is delivered by Dr. Thomas Webster from Ilha Women's University in Korea. Last week, we had an opportunity to talk about students' engagement and interaction. And this afternoon, we are going to talk about alternative approaches in language assessments. I think this is a very hot topic and another difficult topic as well, especially as it's related to the new textbook in the new curriculum of English subjects. So I think it's time to start now. And now we have 62 participants. I guess that more participants will join, but it's time. So we will start so we don't have to wait until more participants will come. I think that about 100 participants will join today, but some of them are late. So it's time to start the webinar right now. Thomas Webster, could you please start the webinar right now? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Lim. Yeah, thank you all for coming today. And I guess we will get some more coming in as we begin here, as we get going. But thank you again for coming. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I already, if you look in the chat, if you look on the sidebar, in the chat, I put the link. You can see the link that I gave you for the Prezi that I'm going to be talking about. I like to give you that so you can, if you get bored with me, you can go ahead and see what I'm going to talk about. Or if I go too fast, you can look back at something that I did. And as usual, I look at the chat quite a bit to see if you have any questions. And again, the reactions button on Zoom is also a good way to get my attention. If you want to ask something verbally, if you want to speak and talk about something with me, okay? All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Can you all see? I think you can all see my screen here. And I'm showing you the web page for our class. And I think you all should have access to this page now. Is that right? Can you just say in the chat, or give me a smiley face or some reaction on your camera so I can see that you guys do have access to this, to the homepage now? Yeah, we got a smiley face there. Yes. Okay, good. I'm seeing some yeses and smiley faces. Wonderful. So if you look at the web page, then our homepage, you can see I just put this up earlier in the materials discussed in supplements. You can see in there I put a number of PDFs and a couple pictures about things that I'm going to be talking about today. And some of these I won't be talking about. Some of these are articles. So if you're interested in more, especially, you can see in there, there's a lot of what's called PBL, problem-based learning. So you're going to, if you want to know more about it after I talk about it, you can click on those and learn more. Okay. But yeah, let's take a look at this. Again, our first webinar last time was generally making sure that we all were on the same page as far as, how we approach trying to make a more dynamic classroom. And I think we covered some good basic principles. And for this webinar today, we're going to focus in a little bit more. So what we're doing with each webinar, again, this is our second webinar and we have 2 more. What we're trying to do is focus in more and more and more so that I get more and more specific to exactly what you guys are doing in the classroom. And so today I'm going to be looking at 5 alternative methods like I talked about. And then I'm going to show you how to apply them to our classes. I chose one. Again, I'm going to talk about our survey that I put up. Thank you all for all those who took part in the survey, the Google Forms survey. Again, that survey was here. And you can do this survey. Here was the link on Google Forms. Clicking on that link took you to this simple form here to tell me more about what you teach, because then I could know what to focus on with the material specifically. And I'm going to talk about the results of that, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to use that to apply some of these alternative methods to your materials. Okay, and and you're going to see it relates to global success is the one I'm going to be talking about. I think most of you teach that. But I also want to talk about something that I talked about in the conference I talked about last week, which is smartphones, thinking about smartphones in teaching, because I think that's an important consideration as well. Okay, so we'll talk about each of those. Those are our aims today. And I should back up just for a second just to show, whoops, I don't need to back up like that. I can back up like this and show you that, again, after we have a little intro where I talk about our survey results, then I'm going to talk about those methods, those 4 alternative methods. Then I'm going to give you an example of another method, which can be used actually with those other methods too. You can intermix these. I'll talk about that, but problem-based learning, I really think that's an important thing. And then you can see we'll go on to smartphones and all that, but let's see. Okay. So the survey results, I checked this 2 days ago, and we had 27 responders. So out of the 27, the first question I asked was, which level do you teach? And you can see that it was mostly high school. The blue, you can see there was 10, I should say 8 grade 10, which is just under a third of the respondents, and the purple and the green were 11th and 12th grade. So you can see that 12th grade and 10th grade, 10, 11, 12 high school was most of the respondents. So that's why I went ahead and focused on that group for today's materials. Again, 15 of 27 were in the high school level. In terms of how many students, I was a little surprised to see that an overwhelming amount, have really large classes. You guys have over 30. So I kind of wished I'd asked more, like 30 to 35, 36 to 40. I'm curious. Does anybody teach over 40 in a class normally? If you do, write that in the chat there. If anybody teaches more than 40, write the number you teach over there in the chat right now, and I'll look at it in a second. Because as of this time, yeah, we got some 45s, 42s. Wow. Yeah. Okay. 43. Yeah, we're getting a lot there. Okay. Yeah. 35 only, right? That's still a lot. But again, most were over 30. In terms of on the third thing that I asked you was about your textbook use, and you guys gave a bunch of different answers and you said it in different ways, but global success, you can see it had 3 count here, but it was said in many different ways on the bottom there, including in Vietnamese there, level and your level, right? So most of it was global success. So that's what I thought for today. I'm going to focus on that, on some materials from that. And then how much freedom do you have in the classroom? I got a few respondents who I was a little bit kind of, I felt sorry for, because like the top respondent there said, not much. There was about 5 or 6 of you that said you really didn't have a lot of freedom to do alternative methods. And that's too bad, because I hope that most of us do, and that I, what I'm talking about today can really help you. But I'm going to talk about what you can do even if you don't have a lot of freedom. So autonomy, you guys said yes, but you guys also emphasized to me that you really have to cover the materials. That's really important. So that helped me. And how do you organize your students? I was happy to see that you guys definitely mix things up already. You guys are already doing, the kind of communicative learning style where you have not always a teacher-centered class. You have pairs and groups, and you organize how you need to teach. So I was glad to see that. And finally, anything else that you thought was important? And you guys really had a lot of different things to say, but the main 5 that I saw was that you worried about the requirements. You, of course, wanted to have more engagement, and you had mixed levels. That's a common problem, especially when you have a class size. When you have a large class size of over 30s and 40 students in a class, then it's pretty likely you're going to have mixed levels. And student roles also, like what role the student will take, was another one you said. And a number of you said that you want to do activities that don't have tech, or that you have issues with technology not being consistent for you. So thank you. All of this information really helped me to prepare a little bit for today. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is just run through these basic methods and kind of show you short videos just to see these different methods, because I think these methods are ones that you can use in the classroom that will, I think these are some of the surest ways that teachers in the United States that I know, how they teach, how they make their classes more dynamic. I have friends who are teachers, and these are the ones that they use the most, because they are the ones that are, easiest to use. You can adopt this entire style, this entire method for all your classes, or you can do it just a little bit here and there for different activities or different days or different weeks. Okay, so we have jigsaw method, station rotation, choice boards, and playlists. These are the 4 ones that I want to show you briefly. And the first one, jigsaw, is where you can see basically on the top left, you have a home group where you group about 4 to 6 students together in a group, and you have them organized into what's called a home group. And you can see that the jigsaw puzzle pieces also open up and go out into what's called the expert group. So in this method, you have the students arranged in 2 different grouping styles, okay? And I'm going to show you a short video, and hopefully the sound is not an issue. Hopefully the sound is good. And we're just see exactly the basics of this, because it's not a hard method to learn or to understand. And the second one's different than that one. This station rotation method is where you actually organize your classroom into, you use desks and you organize them just like you would with normal groups, but you actually keep the tables and the activities at each table the same, and you let the students rotate between the tables, between the stations. And you can see that if you can, you want to have a technology station where students can do things using a computer. If you have one in the classroom, or if students happen to have any. But the other station that's important is you have a teacher station that allows you to have a small group of students where you can individualize your teaching to each one. And of course, you have other stations where the students are collaborating together, like we talked about last webinar. Okay, that's the station rotation method. The choice board is like it says, you have certain activities that the students need to do, and then you put that on an actual board like this, and you let the students choose what they want to do. So there's different ways of organizing this, but if you have something that you have to cover in the syllabus, like you have something that you have to teach the students, you can have more than one way to have students learn that. And again, in this example, there's 6 different things, but again, you may not have time to develop 6 different activities to teach one point. But after you use this method more and more, you'll have a bank or a library of these things that you can pull out and use much easier the second, third, or fourth time you use them. So it becomes progressively easier. Okay, and the last one is called a playlist. And this one is similar to a choice board, except this one is different because this one, the choice board is not customized for individual students. So the choice board, it's just got a certain amount of choices and that's it. Whereas this method of using a playlist is where you actually develop a kind of, it's kind of like a map for students to take care of and to get their work done bit by bit, task by task, and then they can actually check off. You can check them off and let them proceed at their own speed. In the other method, in the choice method, you have students working together and they're kind of all working at the same speed. And so this one has an advantage of allowing students who are quicker to complete tasks sooner and move on to the next ones. And then if they complete everything, you can build in rewards for them to be able to have free time to do what they want to do. So this one allows a little more customization. Okay. Now let's watch these videos. I have videos on all 4 of these methods. They're all very short and they're very good. I'm going to watch the chat here. Let me know if the volume is a little low. I don't know. It should be fine, but I just want to make sure that the sound is fine. So let me know quickly and I'll do that. But let's watch this first one on the jigsaw method.
Most faculty want students to be active and engaged in their learning. Group activities can increase student engagement and deepen understanding. Here's a proven technique that gets everyone involved and makes learning enjoyable. In Jigsaw, students work in small groups to develop knowledge about a topic before teaching what they've learned to another group. Here's how it works. Select a subject and divide it into 4 to 6 subcategories. These are your puzzle pieces. Ask students to form a group for every puzzle piece. Each group is responsible for becoming an expert on their piece of the puzzle. Give groups time to master their pieces. Then organize the class into jigsaw groups composed of one expert from each of the original groups. Once sorted into jigsaw groups, students take turns teaching their piece to each other. Wrap up the activity with a group discussion to underline key points and takeaways. Peer teaching techniques like jigsaw work best when students are prepared. Ensure that happens by assigning homework prior to the activity. Encourage students to teach their peers using details, examples, or analogies to deepen learning. You can also ask students to illustrate concepts visually using charts or graphs. The great thing about this technique is that it gets all students active and engaged at once. In my class, students buzzed with excitement when participating in a jigsaw all about history. It was clear to see that every student was invested in learning. Here at the K. Patricia.
Okay, that was a good background about jigsaw. Now let's hear about station rotation method.
Picture this. It's math class and students are learning a tricky new math concept. Around the classroom, small groups of students are practicing the concept in a variety of ways. At one table, students are watching an Edpuzzle video lesson and completing practice problems in a notebook. At another table, students are using math manipulatives to play a game with a partner. And at another table, the teacher is giving students immediate feedback on the most recent homework assignment. This is the station rotation model. In this model, students rotate through a series of activities so that they can participate in different types of learning. An online station lets students take things at their own pace while they review key content. An offline station lets students work on collaborative problem solving with hands-on activities. And a teacher-led station lets students work closely with the teacher and gives them the chance to ask questions. Teachers love station rotation because it allows them to work with small groups and give differentiated instruction. Students love it because they get to learn in different ways and receive more personalized support. Ready to plan your first station rotation? Start with a video lesson. Choose from Edpuzzle's library of.
Okay, you can see that all of these videos, if you go watch them, have resources for you too. Like that, Edpuzzle is a good one. Okay, now let's check out choice boards.
Offering choice allows students to understand how to make choices in life, introduces autonomy over their learning, and can also increase students' motivation when completing tasks. This video will guide you how to incorporate choice boards into your teaching. Using digital choice boards can enable teachers to be creative while students are remote learning. A choice board is a grid of activities that students can choose from. When introducing a choice board, start small with 2 or 3 choices. This can be supported by images in a grid or recorded audio instructions. Special interests of students can be built into the choice board, and this can increase motivation and engagement. Once students have become more familiar with making choices, the number of activities to choose from can be increased. Students could create their own choice boards, and this could be completed collaboratively. Teachers can provide time for students to feedback on their choice activities during class time. The content of the choice board could be built around any theme or topic the students are working on. For example, class novel assignments could be broken down into different areas and the student could choose which area to complete. Middletown Centre for Autism.
Okay. And finally, let's look at playlists.
Hi, I'm Reset Fletcher, and I'm a second grade teacher here at PL Prep. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the physical playlists that I used last year and how I've transformed those into digital playlists this year. So on the screen, you can see the physical playlist that I used last year. I would pass out a copy of this to each student, and they would have until Friday to complete all of the activities you see here. Students would go from station to station, and as they completed each activity, they would check off that it was finished, and once they completed all must-do activities, they could move on to their may-do activities. But this year, because of COVID, students weren't really able to have a lot of paper activities or papers just in general that were passed out. They weren't really supposed to be sharing supplies. So I had to come up with a way to change that physical playlist into something virtual that students both in person and at home could use. And so you can see on the screen what I ended up coming up with. So this is through Seesaw. This is the playlist that students have. It's a plan that they make themselves, or a pathway they make themselves for how they're going to complete their activities each week. So students are actually able to drag and drop all of these activities on the day that they would like to complete it. So they make a plan for themselves on Monday so that they know what they have to accomplish each day, and so that they can stay on track and keep up with everything that needs to be completed and turned in. And it's really allowed students to have voice and choice in the classroom. They can choose whatever order they want, and it really helps them just become a little bit more independent. And it's something that I had to do because of COVID, but it's really become something that I love. It's been a real blessing, and so I want to continue to use these next year, even when we can go back to sharing more supplies and doing more physical activities.
Okay, so these 4 methods, what they have in common is, and what makes, again, we're talking about things that will make your classroom more interesting for students and for yourself actually too. And that's the part that often is not mentioned when you think about making your classes more interesting, is you actually make the class more interesting for yourself too. And that's kind of important, because if you're a happy teacher, you're going to look happy, you're going to feel happy, and you're not going to feel more, when you come into the classroom, you're not going to be kind of giving off a feeling of like, oh, here we go again. But they all have student choice. They allow students to make choices, as many choices as you can, and everybody loves to be able to make choices. Student autonomy, which can be similar to choice, but it's different. Autonomy means that the students actually progress by themselves at their own. Hopefully, they're able to more, more carefully control how they learn. And it's not necessarily just choices; it's in many other ways, like the way that they work. More student and student-to-student interactions in your classroom. Typically, when you put, like I do in my university class, when I put students into groups, it's really disruptive to have them move around the classroom. So typically, I leave them in a group for that class, and then I don't move them around. But these methods here can be used even on the university level. But again, if you set these things up ahead of time, then and students understand it, if you explain it, then there actually is less disruption, and you can actually have many more interactions between students, which automatically makes things more interesting because they get to interact with different students. And again, you are able in all of these methods to have more customized teaching, where you can adjust your lessons without too much work. You can adjust your lessons to individual students, because basically by that first one, the first 2 here, student choice and autonomy, because you give them more choice and autonomy, you're actually getting them to do some of your work for you. And that allows you more freedom and time to be able to do other things. And you use that time, of course, to actually interact with students more personally, rather than a giant class of 44 or 38 or whatever you teach. In terms of assessment, this is something else we're focused on in this webinar series, is how do you assess? Well, your summative tests that you have to give to students don't have to change with these methods. What you can do, though, is that you can add formative assessments with these methods. All of these methods allow you to actually have different ways, including peer evaluation, including, again, self-checks, progress checks along the way, on different aspects of class that are not normally assessed, such as participation done in a very very linear, a very logical and clear way that the students appreciate, because you can show them how, you can say, look, you're gaining points here or you're losing points because of this, you need to be more, taking part in this part. So you can be much more clear to the students about how they can improve their scores rather than just a test at the end or a high stakes quiz. All of this, again, all of these designs are based on how you design a class for any class. I'm sure you guys all know this, but I have to mention it because the backward design, what I call reverse engineering, is how you should be planning your classes. So when you want to change your class to make it more interactive, more, to involve a new assessment method or something, you're going to design something for the first time, a syllabus, a class activity. You do it by starting with your goals first. You start with your aims, your goals and aims, what you want the students to accomplish, and then you work backwards. You say, okay, in order to do those aims, then I need to have them do these things. And then how do I have them do these things? Well, then I have to have them organized in a certain way to do those things. And then how do I organize them? Well, I do it by having these materials ready. And how do I do these materials? I do these materials in this certain way. I grab my book and I apply it. So again, you work backwards when you design it. And if you want more specificity, more specific, here's a very good, this one was for playlists. So the stuff on the bottom is talking about playlists, but you can see how you would plan one of these lessons using any of these 4 methods. If you wanted to try them, you identify the target standards and skills. You have to have clear learning objectives. You design formative, again, assessments along the way, how you're going to do that. You, again, figure out how you're going to do choice or use different kinds of ways of teaching. You design teacher checks. These are important. All of these were in all these 4 methods. Teacher checks allows the teacher to interact one-on-one with each student during the class to give them feedback about their progress and to help them before their grades become a problem. And again, at the end there, you assess their progress towards their learning objectives more, of course, in that way, the more traditional way, which is the summative tests, like the quizzes and the formal exams or tests. Okay? So again, since most of you on the survey were using global success and most of the respondents said success 10, I'm going to just use that as today's example. The more I learn from you guys today, and I'm going to give you another survey to help me focus more on how to make our next webinar is going to be even more focused. And I'll do it on a different area rather than Global Success 10. But on this one, here's how I begin backwards designing. Here's how I would do your job if I had your position. And again, I don't know everything about it, so you can help me if I don't say things that fit your particular situation. But here's what I did. I looked at online, I was able to see the unit index here. And so I went and looked at the unit index and I thought, okay, well, what if I'm a teacher like you and I want to try one of these 4 methods, right? Maybe you want to try teacher, maybe I don't know which one. Okay, how about station rotation? What if you wanted to try station rotation method? Okay, then look for a unit. Look for one of the units that you're going to teach and what would be suitable. And in this book, Global Success 10, by chance, there is a perfect unit to do that. It's like it's made for it. Unit 8 is called New Ways to Learn. And I looked at that and said, oh my goodness, that if you're teaching Global Success 10, this is a perfect chance for you to try something because that's the point, that's the theme of that lesson. So if you look at what's important, there's some details, come back. There's some details here about, again, pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar, reading. Some of these are main points and some are just smaller details. The blue ones here that I highlighted, these blue ones are the main ones that you should think about when you're designing and thinking about it, how you're going to do it, how you're going to do one of these new methods. You can see that in the blue boxes, it talks, we need to do vocabulary related to different ways of learning. We need to talk about, offline and online, and again, the good things, the advantages and disadvantages, the benefits of blending, which is the same thing. Again, that was in the writing. Modern schools. By the way, in this global success series, I think these last two columns here, these last two columns are very important for you to focus on, because this is an organizing principle that can help you to use this as your beginning start point, because this is very similar to what I'm going to talk about in a little bit, problem-based learning. This project is essentially a problem that you have students do. Can you notice that this one, doing a survey, doing research, doing a survey, these are not very helpful, but the details are. Doing a survey to find out about, again, the devices that students learn with, and how do modern schools teach. What's interesting about that, beginning with this for how you're going to design this lesson, is it's really a good way for you to find out exactly what's important for you to cover. Okay, so this unit, and if you teach Global Success 10, this is the unit you should do it, I think. If you're not teaching level 10, or you're teaching a different book, then you might have something like these in your book. Reviews are a good place to try new methods too, because then you can use, again, students know that review is different than the regular lesson. So it's a good point to say, look, we're going to try a new method here. We're going to try something new today. And again, you need to interact and communicate with your students very clearly about what it is you're doing, so there's not confusion or kind of, just disorder. There's not disruptions. You actually are involving the students in making choices as much as you can, and you tell them about everything you're doing. And that helps, again, that helps you to use your classroom English too. That helps students to practice their English in a very real way. So you're involving them in the directions and the planning as much as you can. So again, the review would be a good place to try it if you didn't have an obvious unit like new methods like this one does. Okay, so then I looked at the teacher's guide, and again, here's the objectives spelled out again, even more clearly. So this, again, we're going backwards in design, and you can see that we've got the same basic things I just boxed in blue above, about the blended learning, about the modern schools. It involves, again, their project is a survey. Okay. So when I looked at your textbook, I can't see the entire textbook. I only have access to the first page of each unit like this, the first 2 pages like this. This is a common textbook. I think, by the way, I think that this textbook series you guys have is really good. It looks like it's organized well and it's planned well. Good job, Macmillan and Oxford, or I'm not sure who designed all your textbooks for different participants. But this is a typical textbook. To me, this reminds me of old Jack Richards. I think Jack Richards and Rogers. Richards and Rogers were the first ones who really came up with this communicative style teaching textbook. And this book is designed in the same way. So it runs through, you know this well, it starts with a warm-up activity, in this case, a listening text, and then it runs through activities that are related to that use that text to focus on different aspects. Comprehension is a basic main point comprehension. Yeah. And then again, we start to focus a little bit more about things like collocations here, what words go together or which words were together in the text. And then again, we do word substitution here, fill in matching, fill in the blank, go find this in the conversation. Again, we're still working with this original text. And then we get into part 2, language, and we start working on pronunciation. And then again, we're following through. And again, looking over here, you can see that, again, we're going through all the 4 basic skills. and we're interested in these particular kinds of functions, giving instructions, and again, these topics and this project. Okay, so when I looked at this, I thought, you know, this can be a really fun book the first time you teach it, the first unit. You grab a unit and you just start teaching it the way it's designed. You start with part 1 and you have students warm up and you follow what it says in the teacher's manual, and the students look at it, they're like, okay, I'll try this. And usually the first time you do it, it's kind of interesting because it's new. And then if you did the same thing for unit 9, or, in this case, it's unit 8, but if you went back to, if you did unit 1 first, unit 2, unit 3, by the time you start repeating, the students are bored and they're just sitting there and they know what's coming and it's not interesting. And they just kind of get locked into, okay, what do I have to do? What does the teacher want me to do? That's what's in their mind. So this type of textbook is very good, and it's very common because it's very good, because it's designed by people who are linguistics experts. But I can tell you that this is terrible to use in the classroom, actually. I never, ever use this textbook. I have to teach this, what's important, the objectives, but I do not have to use the textbook as it's written. And if you want to make your class more interactive, it's going to take a little bit of getting out of the book like we talked about last time. You can't just teach part 1, getting started, part 2, language. You can't just run through the activities. Now, what's interesting is you can do these straight. Every once in a while, you can actually do that. Like if you started out at the beginning of the semester and you did one of these units this way, and maybe you check the class and see how they respond. If they're still into it, they seem active, then do another unit just straight as it is in the book. But pay attention to your students and you'll see when the interest drops off and when they kind of feel like, oh, this is what the class is. When you get to that point, that's when you need to change it. That's when you say, you need to, again, let them know, hey, next class, guess what? You want to get out of you want to do something different? You guys want to do this again, or you want to do something different? Again, get them involved like they're making the decision. But I can tell you that classes will always say, yeah, let's do something different. Everybody likes something new. So again, you can do this a few times, but check your class and see. One class, maybe you have to change immediately and it doesn't work the first time you try it. Maybe another class, you can do this for 2 lessons or maybe 3 units, and then it gets boring and that's when you change. Or maybe you realize that after you go and change it and you do some of the station rotation method, or you do some other method, problem-based learning I'm going to talk about, then later maybe you can come back to the book again and teach a unit straight again because it's new again and the students already know about it. So that you don't have to waste time teaching them because they know it. Right? So again, the key is just like just like for students and teachers, everyone likes to have things be interesting and new, different. But so what you want is things to kind of be as different as they can be, but you want to be consistent as a teacher throughout. So that means you might have 2 or 3 different methods that you switch now and again. You switch them around. Okay? And again, with this unit, I saw this new ways to learn and I thought this is the perfect place to do it. So here's a lesson plan. This is things you have to do when you're going through your, Delta or CELTA course, right? If you're learning how to be a teacher for TESOL, then you have to do this. You have to design a lesson plan for your practicum. Okay, so new ways to learn. You can see that we're trying to make this a more interesting lesson. That's we of course, we have to develop all the 4 skills we have to focus on in the lesson. Again, we have to have content related lexis. Again, we have to focus on the vocabulary. Again, all the things, I got all of these ideas from your textbook objectives, right? The first thing that we did. The age group is teens. I think maybe the level is about B1 for this textbook, it seems, for your students. You're going to have mixed, but okay. I designed this for 60 minutes. I didn't ask you how many minutes you have in a lesson, but again, you can adjust these times There's the textbook. Can you guys use an online website? Again, maybe you can use the interactive website for the book that I was able to use. Can you use the internet generally? Can you have them, again, can you have them using other things like I'm going to talk about later, Google Classroom or maybe a school website? I don't know. But again, everything is possible here. Again, the introduction here, I'm telling you that this is going to cover every single thing you're required to cover in this unit, but so the aims and objectives will be the same, but again, you're going to do it using a different one of those or all or a mix of these 4 new methods. Okay, so you can see that I have a lead in here, a warm up. A lot of you guys talked about warm up being so important, but you introduce the idea of you're going to have because this unit, you say, hey, this unit, you tell everybody, look, this unit is new ways to learn, so we're going to do it. We're not just going to learn. Let's do it. You guys want to do something new? Let's learn with a new way. Okay. So then you explain that's what we're going to do. And then you ask the students what the main idea, just talk to them. Don't try to teach them. Again, this is a warm-up. So you're not teaching in the warm-up. Warm-up is not teaching. Warm-up is just kind of getting people going, kind of being conversational. So just ask them and see, again, this is a good place to check to see what they know about the topic, about like, okay, go look at the conversation there. Do you guys see that getting started? Yeah. Well, what's that about? What's the gist? What's the main thing? Do you guys understand it? Again, be real with your students. Do you guys get it? Do you guys know what that's talking about? What is it? What is it talking about? You can also, again, this is part of what it mentions in the in the objectives and in the specifics for this unit, is asking students if their teachers have used videos in their lessons, right? That's part of what's in that getting started conversation, is about teachers using videos. So you can say, hey, do your other teachers use videos in the classroom? Again, make it real. Make it real. Oh, Mrs. Really, Mrs. Whoever you want to say, you can focus on a particular teacher that you might know and say, does she do that? How does she do it? Oh, let's talk about that. That's interesting. So again, you cover this, you're having this conversation that's in getting started, but you're not actually using that conversation in the textbook. You're covering the same material, the same idea, but you're making it real. You're bringing it out of the book and you're interacting with students and saying, hey, let's have a real conversation about how new methods can really work. Okay? Okay, and then the second thing you want to do is you're going to use one of those methods. You want to choose, I say 5 methods because I'm going to talk about PBL, problem-based learning, later. So you can even do this with PBL. So again, show students how it works. You're going to pick one of these methods ahead of time and then show the students for 5 to 10 minutes, just kind of show them like I just showed you what the method is about. Ask students what they think about it. Is there anything confusing? Again, be real. Then the next thing you do for about 10 to 15 minutes, again, you arrange the classroom. The first time you do this is for the first time. I'm assuming this is the first time you try this new method. Don't arrange the class ahead of time unless you need to, unless timing is more of an issue, you have shorter time. Again, adjust as you need to, but ideally, don't do anything. Involve the students from the beginning. Like say, hey, we need to, now we're doing the station rotation, so we need to set up, how do we do that? Let's do that. How can we set up the room? Let's do, again, so in other words, you might have a little bit of downtime, non-task time while you're having students moving desks around and helping you. But again, it's only going to be the first time you do it. Later, it'll be quicker if you do it again. You say, hey, let's do the rotation thing again. Okay, tables. Right? And sometimes you can even get a student who's very, a student who's kind of disruptive and kind of the joker in your classroom. You can make them kind of your organizer. You can say, okay, like Lynn is your joker, right? Hey, Lynn, we want you to We want you to be, you say, hey, Lynn is great. Lynn, make sure, let's get the tables organized again, Lynn, okay? Make them do it, Lynn, because I know you're good at it. And, somehow get Lynn involved, because then use that energy he has and give him some power, because he wants some power. He's disruptive and joking and having fun because he's not interactive enough. So get him interactive. Let him start being the organizer. Again, okay, then you run the activity for about 20 minutes. The students, again, maybe if you can, depending on your method that you choose, you can move around the classroom. And because it's your first time, you want to pay attention, right? You want to make mental notes, or maybe even write down notes, or even take a video and pay attention to what's working and what's not working, okay? Because you need more and more information, and ask the students too. You can say, hey, do you like this? What could be better? Again, depending on how your class is, find out, get more information, more input from students will make it better. Okay, then you have to lead out. And this is when you stop the class, you say, okay, all right, everybody, we're done for today. What'd you think? Again, you want to explain that you're thinking about using this method, and did you guys like it? Did you think it was okay? So you can actually get response. If they're kind of a quiet class and they don't give you much, then you can say, look, okay, I have a Google Forms, like this one here. I have a Google Forms little, just don't make it long, just about 2 or 3 things like this. Say, I have this thing, I want you to tell me how it was. And you can get feedback from students, and they can go online to Google Forms very easily and give you feedback about what they thought, what could be better. A variation. Now, again, you always want to think about, what if you have students that are much higher level, or you have a few students who are much higher level? What can you do? Well, one of the activities that students take part in can have one or more students design a survey. Again, this is one of the main things we want to accomplish for the project for Unit 8. Have them design that Google Forms survey, or a different one. Again, let them be the ones who get them to do your work for you, because they will have fun doing it. And let them have fun, again, involve them more in being the teacher as much as you can. If they're higher level, then they're capable. Get them involved. They take away some of your workload and let them, they want to be the teacher. They want to have that power. And again, you can reward them for that in different ways, and you can encourage other students who don't try that. You can say, well, don't you, this time I'd like you to do it. You can actually kind of put 2 students together. If one is not good enough by themselves, you can say, okay, you 2 are going to try to do it this time for me, because Lynn did it last time. Lynn's the joker, and he did it last time. He did a great job. Now I want you 2 to try it together. Try to see if you can do it together. Okay. And then the notes on the bottom, depending on the circumstances and your time and everything, you can work directly from your textbook section. So what I'm talking about here is in this part here where you are actually running the activity, step number 4. In this 20-minute space, you have a lot of freedom how you run the activity, right? If you're doing a choice board, for example, or a list, like a playlist, then if you don't have time to develop other materials out of the book, then what you can do is actually use just the sections from the unit. So those, you can use them without adapting them or supplementing them if you don't have time. And again, the key is to mix it up. So sometimes you might want to just use those sections as they are anyway, if it's different than what you did before. So let me show you a little bit about what I mean. Think about section 3 and 4, right? These are pretty simple things. Section 3 and 4, the first one was dealing with collocations. Again, what are the, what goes, these verbs and nouns, which ones usually go together? Which ones are happiest together? Which one we call these family words, right? They like to be together. So which ones, or they're friend words, sometimes we like to call these friend words. Collocations are friend words or family words for lower level students. So there's only 4 of these. It's pretty simple. If you have higher level class, you can include more. And by the way, when you're talking to students at the beginning, you can actually listen to the words they use or don't use, and you can adjust which words you put here. So you could add more from what they said. And again, this other one where you're matching up what was actually in that conversation. You could use the conversation as it's written, and then you could still do this activity. But how could you do it? Well, again, you can see at the top here what I'm talking about is that you could, instead of using it directly from the textbook, you could actually adapt this pretty easily by making cards. Of course, words, and anytime you have matching kind of things, or this one, where there's an information gap, right? There's a vocabulary to fill in, something's missing and you got to match them up or something, then you can always put those on cards, right? And so you can coat those cards. So again, you could put on 4 cards, you could have 8 cards for part 3 if you minimum, right? If you want to do just the minimum, that's what the textbook has. You could have upload, do, find, and take on each on their own card, and you could put a laminate on them so you can reuse them for next time. Again, that's so important as a teacher, as you know. Whenever you make an activity, think about how am I going to use it again for a different set of vocabulary, right? Or how can I use this exact activity again for another class later? So you want to make things reusable as much as you can. So when you're designing any kind of activity, any kind of thing out of the textbook, think smartly. You want to save time. So the next time you do it, you don't have to make these again. Or you think about, well, I don't want to have to make cards every time. I want to do something different. Again, whatever you do, be smart about it so you save time now and especially in the future. But okay, so you made these cards, and then if on the left here or on the right, do you have an active class? Are your students very active, or are they kind of quiet and they're more, or maybe you have a mix of students, right? So for the students, maybe you could do this. If you have a number of sets of these cards, you could, if they're more quiet, you could have a memory game like this. Do you know memory game? That's where you have all the cards turned over upside down, and then you say, okay, we need 2 of them to match. So turn them over. You can turn just 2 over. So that, like this boy is doing here, he turns over that one, that sound. He's doing phonics here, I believe. So he's trying to match up the animal with, or the thing with the sound. So did he match them here? It doesn't look like it. I think what is that thing, a fish? Maybe it's a f. He's looking for a f sound and he got a d sound. So he missed it. So what he'd have to do is turn both of those back over, right? And then the next person remembers, oh, the fish is there and the d is there. And so then they can turn over 2. And of course they want to match them. So this is good for students who are more kind of passive or more quiet. They don't want to be so involved with each other directly. This was also a good one during pandemic when we didn't want students to be so interactive physically. We wanted to keep them kind of distanced. Okay, but if you have students that are active, then you can actually develop it like a card game where you have them hold the cards in their hand. You could have like one student who has only one student has all the matching cards and all the other students have the different ones, depending on the number of students. So for example, with this one here, you could have this one student with these sentences on their cards. And you could have all the other students with the answers. So or you could have 2 students. What would make it really interactive, of course, would be to have 2 students with the correct answer. So who's the first one to realize what's the correct fit? And they get a point. So you could turn it into a game. And again, it doesn't have to be if you start to develop more and more activities like this, and hopefully, and I know this is not always true, but hopefully if you teach the same lesson next year, you're going to cover Unit 8 again. Hopefully, then you'll have these already, you've already got these activities from last year, and you can actually add to them a few more this year. And then if you actually get lucky enough to teach it 3 times, then you have multiple activities. So then you don't have to spend a lot of time with this. The key is to also not just to have new things for students, but to have them change from activity to activity as often as you can too. Because this activity, again, you want to have it, if the students find this really easy, then you need to add a few more combinations here, right? That are in the same theme. Again, this is uploading uploading videos and finding information. You want to have similar verbs and similar collocations here that are related to the same theme, right? So, and again, you could probably find some just from the looking in the textbook, the thing here, right? Like you could even do things sounds and interesting. That's, you could collocate that little thing there. Again, you're lucky. My teacher uses very traditional methods. Again, you could say very traditional and then methods. Again, you could break up collocations because traditional and methods, traditional and again, there's learning activities. There's so many different ways you could do it depending on what the students need and again, what their level is. But again, if you're using one of those 4 alternative methods, then you are freed up sometimes to go and find out or look around and see what the students are getting easily and what they're having difficulty with, and you can adjust it. And again, you can adjust it for each student too, not just for the lesson for the next time you teach it. But again, paying attention is going to make it much more, you're going to get, there's lots of information for you there. Your classes can, that's the key. If you're doing these alternative methods, then one thing that you get from it is you get freed up. You actually, because teachers are so busy in the front of the classroom teaching and trying to make sure everyone's on task, and you're doing all the jobs for everyone, right? You have too many tasks. You have to keep everyone kind of doing the work. You have to keep them not making noise or hurting each other. If it's lower level, they might be fighting or getting angry, or you have to make sure the timing is right. There's so many things you have to do, but how you can actually make your class more fun for the students is get them to do those things, because you are too busy. So take away some of your jobs and give it to the students, give the power to them. And that frees you up to be able to walk around and pay attention more. And then you can see what's working, what's not, and you can do more of what's working and do less of what's not working. And of course, you can hopefully find what each student or each group of students needs. You can match things better. And all of those things are going to make it more interactive. Okay, PBL, I'm going to just give you, this is a method of problem-based learning that you can use with any of those 4 alternative methods. You can use it with any materials. And I'm going to show you, again, things to consider for Global Success 10 Unit 8. I'm going to talk about that at the end here, but I want to give you an example of me actually designing an entire course with PBL. So I'm going to run through this kind of quickly, and you can look at this later. You have the link to this, and you can just see the materials of what I talked about, okay? So don't worry if I go too fast. I just want to have time for us to speak after on this. And by the way, I'm looking at chat. It doesn't look like anyone is asking any questions. I should say, does anyone want to ask any questions about what I've said so far? Does anyone want to ask any detail about anything that I've said? I'm looking at the chat right now. No, everybody's still there? Okay, you guys okay? I hope so. Yes, you're good. Okay, good. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, you can speak up too. Yeah, you like the card matching idea? Yeah, it's those things and the thing is, I didn't mention when you do things like making materials, right now, this is a good time. You guys, a number of you teach Global Success 10, right? Well, we can set up, Mr. Lin can help me, or if I can't figure it out, but we can set up how you guys can kind of get each other's emails, and you guys can together, if you guys are all teaching level 10, then you can, you're teaching Global Success 10, then you guys can actually kind of share the work amongst each other. You can say, I'll do I'll do some cards for these and you do that, and then we can share them. More examples for other methods. Yeah, I'm going to show you PBL, and the next time the next webinar, we're going to be even more focused with more examples next time. And hopefully I'll get more feedback from you guys, and I'll see your materials more, and then I can actually grab more. Because again, I only have access to the first page of your textbooks, of each of those, that unit, and only for global success. I wasn't able to find for the other one. The other one, what was it? Family life or something? I forget the other. Let me look real quick. Well, I'll look later. I don't want to waste time right now. But again, the more you guys give me, and I'm going to put a little space, hopefully, for you guys to upload, and show me what you're doing, so then I can grab that. And I'll talk about that at the end of this webinar. The more you give me, the more personalized I can teach you. I can kind of give examples. Okay. Okay. So PBL. Let me show you how you can do it. PBL is good because it's a hands-on thing. It's active. And it's based on investigation. It's based on students being curious. And I can tell you that curiosity is the key to everything in life. Really? You can't see my survey. Yeah, well, you should be able to go. I'm sorry, just really quick. Somebody said they couldn't see the survey. If you can't see the survey, if you go here, this needs analysis survey link here, you should be able to click that link. I haven't turned it off, and you should be able to just click on the buttons, what level you teach, and you should be able to do these things, right? And then submit your answer. And you can only submit your answer once, and you can edit your response. You should be able to do this. If you can't, then I think, again, others have been able to do it. Copy and paste it here. Sure, I can do that. I want to get back to the basic form here. So let me click this again. I'll just copy and paste this for you right here. So you can go look at that and do that right now. Again, I'm going to try to give you guys another form. Again, a place for you guys to give me more feedback with specific materials that you have, okay? All right, let's get back to PBL then. PBL, what is it about PBL that's interesting or different? Is that it's open-ended, it's challenging. There's not just one answer. The problems that you give are very customized to your setting and to what your students are interested in. It's self-directed, so students are collaborating in small groups. Again, all of this is up to you to adapt it to your specific situation. What you're doing as a basis for PBL is you're creating a problem, and again, you're trying to work towards a solution. And this solution doesn't have to be perfect. And students can get the wrong solution, and they can make solutions which are ridiculous, but it doesn't matter. Because you're not really trying to solve the problem as much as you're trying to get everyone involved and everyone interested and everyone involved with the materials. And teachers, again, are freed up from that classroom being in front, having to do everything. You're freed up because the students are busy and they're interested in a good way. They're busy in a good way. The benefits of it, again, is that they're problem solving. They learn the things that we want to teach them, those deeper skills, critical thinking. They have to be creative to solve problems. It makes them more motivated because they want to do it. And whatever they learn, it can be transferred to other classes, even different, not just English classes, but over to other subjects. If they're learning Vietnamese, then, like learning their grammar more higher level or something, then it can be used for that, or even math. As we've seen, these methods can be used for any kind of topic. Drawbacks. This one is if students, especially when you do this the first time with no experience, it can seem hard. It's hard to get going. It's hard to get students into the rhythm sometimes. Some students pick it up immediately, But it can be hard because they have trouble trying to figure out, okay, well, what do we need to do with this problem? How do we approach it? You know, so again, you might need to actually do a lot of teaching the first time you do this with a class. You know, where you actually say, okay, well, how are you guys doing? Okay, you're not getting started. Okay, well, let me get you going. I talk about it like balancing plates. Have you ever seen an acrobat in the circus, a clown, where they take a plate, you know, like a dinner plate, like you eat on a plate, and they have a stick, and they put the plate on top of the stick and they spin it. And the plate is spinning on the stick, right? They're rotating the stick and they're keeping it's really fun to watch, right? Wow, they can balance a plate. And then you know, a good clown will balance a plate and then get a second one going and a third one. And that's what you kind of might have to do when you first start. When you're teaching a problem-based lesson, you might have to go balance the plate. Then you look over at you get this group going, and then you go over to help another group and you look back and that other group has kind of lost the plate. They're not really keeping going. And you gotta get this plate going and then go to another one and go back to the original one. So it can be a little challenging that way. But again, usually only the first time you do it. You might have trouble covering materials. So sometimes you might have to cut out unimportant things that are not as important if you can. Again, it can be challenging for you to plan and hard work for you to design it because you're doing a lot of thinking. And then when you actually do it in the classroom, you actually, again, are freed up. You're in a very relaxed mood. Sometimes when they show problem-based learning, they actually show the teacher with a newspaper up front. They're just sitting in the classroom with their feet up on the desk with a newspaper. And their whole entire class is busy doing everything, doing the problem. And the teachers just kick back relaxed. So it's not that, that's a little exaggerated. And you don't really want to do that, right? Because this is a good time for you to walk around and kind of observe and learn things. But the point is that you have a lot of upfront work to plan and less in-class work to do. Okay, so now I'm going to run through. By the way, this comes from Maslow's, if you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, where you know this triangle on the left here, I think. And this problem-based learning actually helps get them all the way to the top. It moves them up that way. It involves all of these basic 2 self-fulfillment needs. If you get good at it, you can, and then on the right, you can see from problem-based learning, you can see that specifically the intellectual skills that they learn are of 3 different categories that build on each other. So this is based on, again, the theory is quite solid. And I have, again, those handouts for you on the website that you can go look at if you want to learn more. So my course was called Life in the 21st Century. Here's the syllabus. You can look at it later. But you can see, I just want to show you the basic grading here, that you can see that they have a group study, which they get 30%. They have presentations, which are 30%. They had 2 regular summative exams. These are just the normal exams that I would give in this course anyway if I didn't use PBL. There's a little difference, but it's the same thing. And response papers, these are the same things that you have to do. You have to give them things to write and exams, right? Okay. And there you can see the organization is very simple on paper. Look at the syllabus, I should say the schedule. Do you see at the beginning, I am giving them a guided problem first. And you can see I was talking about the smartphone dilemma. I've been interested in smartphones for a while. So I actually walked through how to organize, and I very, again, I was very explicit about teaching them because they don't know how to do it the first time. So I taught them how to do a problem, how to work through this first problem. And so I guided them. And then I even gave a presentation. And then from then on, the groups selected from a list. They chose their problem 2, problem 3. And you can see that after problem 3, they had problem, you can see here, where is it? Where am I not seeing it? Oh, there we go, right here. After problem 3, usually I highlight this, but they have that regular exam. They have that exam there, and this exam is the same exam I would have given on content in this course anyway, if I wasn't using problem-based. So there it is. So they have an exam on those 3 problems that actually 4, because I gave them a guided one here, right? So I test them on it. And then we go back to problems again, group selected problems, 4, 5, 6. And then the last problem is kind of a catch-all problem. It's kind of, and then I have another exam on the content. So it's pretty traditional, but different in that I'm not doing anything. When it's problem 4, I'm not teaching anything. And when it comes to the problems, here's what I had to do. This is part of the upfront work for this. You have to choose problems, and I talked to students about this. That was my problem, so to speak. I decided this one, and I said, this is the one I'm going to focus on. And then I asked students in the first week of classes, I said, let's make problems. What are you guys interested in? So they said, well, we're interested in, I called it 21st century pirates, because they were talking about getting online materials, getting stuff for free, like getting downloads, music downloads for free instead of paying for music and then also about how test taking, how they were interested in that. They were interested in selfies and surgeries. They were interested in CCTV and tracking people. They were interested in how we use media. They were interested in photoshopping your face and how you change what you look like. They were interested in something called yellow dust here. But anyway, you can see they came up with these problems, and then I formulated them into specific problems that are very focused. This column here is the task that they have to do. And you can see in each one of these, I create a situation. Look at this one, for example. Your group, this is about 21st century pirates. Your group has been assigned as an independent research group to look into the roots of online media piracy in order to advise the US Congress on issues related to the Stop Online Piracy Act. Your advice on this issue will help determine if and how the act will be modified and applied to other countries. So in this one, it was Korea. I said, so you guys have to give a report. That's going to be your presentation part. Your presentation is going to be presenting to US congressmen and women about, you're going to advise them about the situation in Korea and what's the best way that they think to handle piracy. Do you see how it's a very real problem, and it's very specific to Korea where I was teaching this course? The students chose the problem, but I focused it into a very specific task. And you can read all of these to see how I did that. But again, that's how we organize it. Yeah, I'm going to show you more of that. I see somebody asked a comment there. I'm going to show you. Look, this is how we assess. This is alternative assessment for problem-based. Students are self-assessing in a group. So in each of these groups that they study with all the problems they looked at, this is how they did it. For example, this was the team leader. That's one position. She was team leader for the first problem. And then for the second problem, she changed to a different role. She was not team leader every time. They all take different roles. She was the leader, and she had to do these things. And these are students evaluating. Students in her group evaluated her, and you can see they gave her just good and fair grades. Students actually are pretty harsh on each other, more than teachers. So anyway, this is how Sunny was graded. She was the team leader, and her group, all of them graded her. And by the way, I graded them too. So I got 1 vote, and then there were 3 other votes. There were 4 in the group. And so Sunny's grade for problem number 1 as leader, her grade was an average of my grade for giving her and the other 3 students in her group's grade. We put all 4 together and divided by 4, and she got an average score, and that was her score for problem 1. Here's Bona. Bona was the scribe. She had a job where she had to write things down. And again, same thing, she's evaluated from other people in her group. The researcher role was by this student, and she had different duties. And Kat was the presenter. When they were done, she's the one who had to present to the in the case I mentioned, she had to present to the congressman. And how good a job did she do as a presenter? And these are the things that we graded her on. Okay. Going quickly, you can see that I gave presentation feedback for the presenters in more detail. I gave not just this on the top. You can see that group manner score to be added later. Again, you can read all this and see how I did it, but I gave her comments to help her about her general presentation and then on her manner of speaking, because presenting is important. So again, I gave her specific feedback. So only the presenter. So Kat got feedback for presentation for problem 1, but all the others in the group did not, because they were not the presenter. Okay. Buzzing through, here's the exam. This is what they had for questions for their exam. And these were all based on the content of what these students researched themselves. They decided what the content was that they presented. And then they even made the questions. All of these questions, you can see this is according to G21. So this was group 2, problem 1. So group 2 actually made this question. This was a question they made for their first problem. Group 2 made this question for their second problem. So I had students, the groups actually wrote the test. They did my work for me. But of course, they gave it to me and the grammar had problems. So I fixed the grammar and I made it. I'm a teacher like you guys are. I know how to make it a good test. So I fixed all the test problems and made the grammar okay, but the content was completely from the students. And of course, those groups get their own questions right, but it's fair because everybody gets their own questions right. And that encourages them because they have some questions that are very, very easy because they wrote them. And again, they had true or false. They had fill in the blanks. Again, just like a normal test. And again, when they gave papers, response papers, I gave them feedback here. Again, this was telling them what they needed to do for their short little 1 to 2 page response paper. And here's an example of a problem about the decline of marriage in Nigeria, that one of the students was from Nigeria and her group decided to focus on marriage in Nigeria. And again, this is her little write-up, and she decided how to write it based on what I gave. And I give them, again, feedback at the bottom. And so this is very much like a traditional kind of thing. But again, all of this is generated from the students, the content. I'm just replying to, and I teach them how to do a better job on the next problem. Here's what my grade sheet looked like. It was very complex looking because I had, again, each group got to evaluate each other. Again, for the first problem, second problem, third problem, and for different roles, and each person grading themselves. And again, it looks complex, but actually it's simple once you get it done, and you can reuse it, and it's actually pretty clear. And the thing is, it's very detailed, so students can see how they got their grades, and they're very happy with them. They're satisfied with this because they know they were part of the evaluation. They graded each other. And actually, they become happier with me because I graded easier than the other students in their group did, always, because they find students are very harsh on each other. Sorry, let me get back to this. So, okay, so global success. If you want to try to put it into global success 10, here's the things that you should consider, how to apply it to this. And again, I'm going to let you just read this because not all the participants today are teaching Global Success 10, but I went through and I talked about the prep time, things to consider. You can see the procedure, each one, you consider each of these, I think, in this order by, again, considering the capability of your students, the setting, the outcomes that you want to happen, the assessment, how you're going to do that, your schedule. Think about the themes. Again, if you're you want to do this related directly to the textbook material. So you want to begin with the basic theme. Again, how can they be designed as problems? And I'm going to show you how I did that in a moment. And then you design one unit problem just to start it out. Do not start a new method and change your whole, a lot. Don't invest too much immediately. Imagine how one problem might be arranged for your class. Again, go look at those objectives like I did in the book map for your textbook, like I did. And if you can, it's really good if you can try it out once. Test it. Do it once and see what happens and get feedback and see what, how you can do it better next time. Maybe you just try it once first in one of your classes for one lesson, for one activity, and then you get a feedback and you learn how to do it better. And as I say here, the key is to be relaxed and very, what's the word? Guess what? Be relaxed and very observant. It's very important. The main thing you want to do when you try any new method is to pay attention. Take notes. Again, ask students. They love to be involved. Get them to help you, tell you what you need, okay? So look at this right here. I went ahead and phrased each of your units for Global Success 10. This is how I would arrange a problem. And because the problems are arranged in this way, by arranging the problem carefully and specifically, you can make sure that all the things that you have to accomplish in that unit, according to the government, the Vietnamese government, and the requirements from your textbook, you can accomplish all of them will fit inside of this problem. In other words, when students are exploring this problem, they have to do the things that are required in the textbook. They're not going to use everything exactly, but they're going to get all the objectives. So look at Unit 1. Should families in Vietnam have routines? So this unit was talking about family family habits. So you can see when you think about this, include info about roles, chores, and duties. Like, what duties does mom have in the, should mom have to do all the cooking? The chores, is mom, who's responsible for giving, if you have a dog, who's responsible for feeding the pet? Or what's the role here? When you come home from school, to the students, what are they supposed to do? Do they have to do their homework first? Or again, you think about these routines. So should families in Vietnam have routines? That's a very general one. You could make this more specific. I don't know that much about Vietnamese family structure. So again, you can change this. But I look at another example. Number 5, Unit 5. Make a proposal for a new invention that will help your town or city. So again, you're supposed to be getting students to think about requests and benefits. And so you could have them do that. I like number 6 too, because it's talking about gender roles. And I like it to make it a little controversial sometime and make it fun. Unit 6, which jobs are women better at than men? Ooh, that'll get them going. Because some students might say, well, that's not right, that you don't think like that. Women, are there jobs that men are better at, or women? Or is there, because you want the students to start agreeing and disagreeing, right? That's the main point of the unit. You want them to survey about their future jobs. You want them to think about, well, if I'm a woman and I'm better at this, does that mean I should have this job? And that's not fair. We should change the job. Again, you're going to get them doing all the things that unit wants you to do. And you can specifically go create activities that are specific to each of those units. And you can, again, if you set it up with a problem, then you can actually use part of that unit's activity, one of those sections, like the language. You could actually tell everyone, okay, go do the language thing. You guys need to do that. That will help you to get further in the problem. So again, the main thing about problem-based learning, you can see, is that the traditional learning is often not very interesting because you begin by telling students things and they memorize it. And then again, then you give them a problem. Then you might kind of get them to think about it more deeply. Whereas problem-based, you're giving them the problem first. So you're switching it around. You say, okay, wait, you guys go. Here's your problem. How are you going to solve it? You guys be the organizer of your own learning. Identify what you need to know. What are you missing? So then you learn how to solve things. You recognize a problem, and then you know what to do. You know how to be active and organized. Okay? So that's, again, that's how you would do it. And again, oh, by the way, I should say, for each of these problems that I showed you here, you would want to have a description to help the students, right? Like I did. Remember my problems? I had a title, like a fun title, like 21st Century Pirates. You might have a question like this as your title, but you want to kind of give a short little paragraph, or explain to the students a little bit more to make sure that they're framed correctly so that they focus on the unit objectives. And again, make it in a fun way. Okay, does anybody have any questions about that? We're kind of getting along now. Does anybody have any questions about PBL? More web pages to explore reading tests on subjects. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about, I think next class, next webinar, we're going to be talking about materials more specifically. And depending on what you guys give me, for what you want, and you tell me what to focus on, I'll definitely include that in the next time. Yeah, a question here is it time consuming to give correction in this method? That's an interesting question. It depends on how you do it, but no, it should, in my experience, not at all. Time actually is the best part of problem-based learning. Like I said, when you use problem-based learning in the classroom, you are freed up. The teacher really, like they show in often, the teacher's kicking their feet up and reading a newspaper because the students are doing it. So you have time to go walk around, actually, not read a newspaper. You have time to walk around and listen. And again, you're not really trying to correct them. Remember that that's not really what your role is in problem-based learning. You are trying to make sure that their direction, their play is in the right direction. You want to make sure that their direction of learning is correct. And so you want to focus on that primarily. Make sure that they're going, their plates are spinning, they're doing the things, the activities, the main functions are the main thing you want to focus on. And then when you're sitting there, then you can focus on specific things, like if they're not getting collocations correct or the grammar forms are wrong, you can jump in and just kind of correct that where you see it won't interfere with them doing their work. You can give feedback on little sheets. Sometimes I've done that before, where you don't want to interrupt them. You have time, so you could just write a little note like, oh, you need to work on this. And then you just kind of hand it to them, a little slip of paper, and they look at it and go, oh, okay, the teacher said I need to work on my verb agreements. And then maybe you wrote an example there. You said like, she go home. You said she go home, but it should be she goes home. So maybe think about, matching the verb with the subject. Again, all of that is very customized for each student. You can make little notes like that and hand it to them while they're still working on their problem. And it doesn't disturb them, it doesn't embarrass them, and it gives them direct something to work on, specific. And it makes you feel better because you feel like you're doing your job better. And you are. You really are doing your job better because you're giving specific help that student needs. You're not wasting your time telling all the students that because maybe they all don't have that problem. Okay, I'm going to move on to the smartphone thing that I talked about in last week's presentation, but I want to get you guys, I'm hoping to have, it's 5:32, so I'm hoping to just give you the basics about this and then give you a chance to go on my Jamboard again and give some feedback. Okay, I want to talk about my research project because this is where I got the idea and why I'm interested in it. I did this study and the title came out. It's being published. I think I already mentioned being published in 2 months. It's My Other Hand, the central role of smartphones and SNSs in Korean students' lives and studies. So this was a study about smartphones, and it was focused on the students' perspective, not just in the classroom or for study, but in their lives. So what I came out with, the reason it's called My Other Hand is because these students, one of the participants in my study said her phone is like her other hand. It's so important to her. She always has it. So it's like her other hand. And I thought that ended up being kind of the central theme about how important smartphones are to everyone. You know, and I think it applies not just to students in Korea, or not even just students, but everyone, the central role of smartphones. And I found that students actually consider their smartphones as part of their thinking. It's part of their cognition. They can't, if you take their phone away, they think differently. And it's becoming more and more true. Especially for things like navigating time and how they think. I also, in my study, found that students are using YouTube to supplement their classes. 76.7% said that they listen to a class from their teacher, and then they have to go to YouTube and watch a YouTube video that's more interesting and more fun so that they understand what their teacher was talking about, because their teacher wasn't clear enough. But what was interesting, that second little statistic, 64.4%, they still preferred their professors. So they do want their professors' lectures live in the classroom, but they use YouTube because their classes are kind of boring. You know, again, they're not interactive, or they're not, you know, the teachers are not learning enough, but also, of course, these new video productions on YouTube, these kind of YouTubers are kind of increasing the level of what is considered a good teacher, right? Because these people go on and produce these videos that are they have music and sound and editing, and it's hard to compete, but that was important. And students thought that every student said they had a problem with their phone. They didn't want to have it in their hand all the time, but they couldn't help it. And they said it was their own fault. And then they also talked more, though, about the idea of why it's their fault. And they said that the businesses are at fault, because these companies make things that are the phones and the apps, and they can't help it. They're addictive. And they also said that none of their teachers talk about smartphones in the classroom. None of them helped them or told them how to control it. So here's what I thought. Go look up this idea of a metacognitive economy. These smartphones and technology in general is changing how students study. It's changing how they concentrate as they study. It's changed their thinking in many ways. Again, you can go read my study or any other study on this topic, and you can see how it's true. This is the thing that students do the most. And this is really important for you guys when it comes to in the classroom. The reason those alternative methods work and why they're interesting is because they're matched more closely to how students learn these days. Students play to learn. That's different than how we were taught, where we would be taught something and then we would try it. That's not what they do. They try it. They just hop in there like a problem. Like, okay, I want to make this phone do this thing, so I'm going to push that button first and see what happens. Oh, nope, that didn't work. Next, that. Oh, nope. Oh, wait, that did. Okay, that does this. That does that. That's why kids seem so quick at using technology these days, quicker than us, because they have a different method of how they learn. They actually experiment. They are problem-based learners by nature. And the phone, by the way, the phone companies know this. The technology companies know this very well. That's why they did touchscreen. That's why they designed the apps the way they do. Everything is designed where did you notice, by the way, there's like no user manuals anymore for any apps or anything? They do have them, but they're not there. There's no directions on how to use a new app, really. It's very minimal, because they assume that the user is going to just start hitting things and figuring it out. The directions are very simple nowadays. They used to be very complex for the simplest little thing, like how do you put together a toy? It was very complex directions to how to put together a toy, but no, they would just try it. So there's a need for education. Because of these differences, there's a real need for us to address it. And again, it can be summarized. The metacognitive economy can be summarized by saying the best way of organizing is what's important now. This is what students need to learn, is how to, not how to get knowledge into them, but how to get them to figure out how to organize themselves, how to think in a way that they can use facts and find the best, quality information and how they can use it. So that's what they should be focusing. That's what our lessons should be closer to. Okay. So what should we do? Well, you can go online and look at all these different advice. There's so much advice about how to manage your classroom, what to do with smartphones. I heard from Mr. Lin last week that you guys in your classrooms have freedom. The Vietnamese government allows you guys to make that decision, because if you find that you can use smartphones for a particular goal, then you can do it. So, but that's problematic if you don't really know what you're doing. You haven't really thought, wait a minute, before you start using them, you have to think about it. Should I? So that's what I want us to think about here. Which approach do we want to begin with? Because there's a lot of different ideas in the world. In countries like France uses the left method. The one on the left there, they ban. They say no smartphones in the school at all, zero, never. All regular primary and secondary classrooms in France, no smartphones allowed. You can see there's also called the pouch method. That's where the students come in and they put their phone in a kind of little pouch, a bag, and they can't open it again until they leave at the end of the day. Is that what you think is that, a lot of teachers think that's the way to handle it. Is that what you think? The second one that's a little less restrictive is called the Punisher, what I call the Punisher. The students are allowed to have their phones with them in the classroom, whenever they're doing things they shouldn't do, then you punish them for it. You say, okay, wait, no, stop using, you go around and you see them and you punish them, and you have to be like a policeman. Some teachers like to do that because they can control it. The next method, which is a little less, again, intrusive, is that you use the desk method, where you say, I'm the self-discipliner. I want the students to discipline themselves. So you have the students take their phone and turn it upside down. And again, you might tell them, okay, this is a task. We're going to use our phones. So everybody grab your phone and pick it up. We're going to use it for this activity. And then you put it down when you're not using it, and you trust the students to discipline themselves. Okay, the next one over is a little bit more like you want to use phones more. You motivate them, you give them incentives. Are you a person who motivates students? Do you want them to, like, you can give them a reward. Like you can say, again, if they're doing one of our methods, like the rotation, if they're doing playlists, for example, and they go through and they finish all the things they need to do on their playlist, then their reward can be they can use 10 minutes of smartphone time. You can just reward it and let them do whatever they want as a reward. Or you can motivate it more directly, like saying, if you use your phone in a good way for this task, then you get some reward for that. Or if you teach another student how to use their phone well, or how to manage their phone well, then they can get points for that, or rewards. And finally, the last one is where you're kind of completely into it. You say, I'm going to really try to teach them about it, and I'm going to adapt to this new way of learning and this new method, and you want to incorporate it as much as you can in every lesson, or in whatever you can. So which of these is you? Which of these methods is you? I have 2 Jamboards here. I don't think we have time for 2, but you guys can go on this Jamboards after class, okay? This allows 50, I don't know how many participants we have right now. Let me look up. We have 82. Yeah. Whoever can log on to these first, I'll let you guys do this time, and then next webinar, I'll let others use the Jamboard next time. But here's what I'd like you to do is just kind of think about, I was going to put us into groups and do this and have you do this, but maybe you guys could just do this right now. Go on to this Jamboard. Here's my Jamboard. And you can see how if you haven't used Jamboard before, you just go over on this once you get the link and you put it in, and again, I can share the link here by going it. I have it set up for editor. I can copy the link, and then I can put the link here for you. And the first 50 people who click that link can end up on this board. Please do not, good, somebody joined. Please do not hit the clear frame or the set background buttons. Leave these two buttons up here. Don't mess with those because clear frame will get rid of everybody's stuff. Okay, but what you want to do is just go click on the left here. You can click on the Post-it note button, sticky note, and you can say, maybe you could say, I'm a self-discipliner. Discipliner. Am I spelling it right? Discipliner. Oh, it's got spelling check. Okay, good. So if I misspelled it, it would fix that for me, right? So I'm a self-discipliner. You can choose whatever color you want. And then you can say, boom, done. You guys are already doing it. Click over here, and then you can grab this, and let's keep it neat. So downsize your little Post-it note and put it in one of these circles. Put it in a circle for me, please. So go ahead and do that, you guys. Let's see. We have motivators. I'm curious. Let's see how we're doing. Motivators. Self-discipline. By the way, I don't know what I am. I kind of mix it myself, by the way. I'm not quite sure what I am yet. I just used self-discipline because it was down the middle. I didn't want to influence you. I see I'm a Democrat. That's funny. But wait, what kind of Democrat? Are you a banner Democrat? Or are you a self-discipliner, motivator Democrat? Incentive person. You can write desk method or consequences. You can put whatever you want. I want to be an adapter. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you can turn the Post-it notes. By the way, students love this. If you have a chance to use Google Jam boards, if you can have students, they can have so much fun with these things. They can get silly with them. There's a lot of different online sites where you can do the same basic thing. But I like Jamboard because it's so easy. You just give them the link and they can go on it and do it. And it's so easy. I can set the background. Oops, somebody got rid of my background. That's okay. Somebody's playing with the buttons. This is what students do too. Don't get upset at your students. Go, oh, you bad students. How could you do that? You just go find your background again. I don't know if I have my background ready for me because we're kind of short on time. I don't want to go look for it. I'll just leave it. Yeah, somebody cleared the frame too. I'm depressed because of my students. Oh, I'm sorry. Again, hopefully you can, if you're depressed because of your students, this participant who put that up here, I think that you should find out more about why. You know, you should use that because if there's something that if your students are, if you're depressed about your students, it's because they're doing something else, right? They're not doing what you want them to do. So the perfect thing to do, you have to do to not be depressed is you have to find out what they're doing and you have to channel their energy back in a positive direction. So are they lazy? Are they disruptive? Are they distracted? Find out what's depressing you about their activities. Hopefully they're not apathetic. Hopefully they have some energy. But go find out. Be curious why exactly and ask them too. So you can tell your class this. You can be honest with your class. Say, you know, I'm kind of depressed these days. As a teacher, I feel depressed. And then see what the students say, because they might go, what? The teacher's talking like that? And then you go, yeah, I am depressed because, again, I really want to help you guys, but I don't feel like I'm doing it. So can you guys help me? I don't want to be depressed. What can I do? Again, make it like it's your problem, not the student's problem. If you can do that, if you can be vulnerable, I know you can't always be vulnerable as a teacher. You want to look like you're the authority. But I'm telling you, the more you open up in front of your students and show that you're human and you make mistakes, if you can figure a way to do that as much as you can, those students will jump on your side. They love to help. They want to be the savior. They want to be the hero. So if I'm kind of sad. We should control our mood if students do so. Yeah. Again, the teacher sets oh, it's okay if somebody pressed the wrong button. Students should, teachers should set the mood. Again, if you do things that make you happy and you make your work easier for yourself, then hopefully you can you can set that mood in the classroom so that students have that feeling too. It's like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to speak up and say something stupid. It's okay, to show you're human. When I usually say, students, I'm going to be out of control, please. Yeah, again, that's great. Whatever you guys need to do to keep, make your class more interesting, you got to stop maybe trying to just be formulaic, trying to just get through the lesson. You have those objectives you have to cover, but they don't have to dictate everything. You can don't let them lead the materials. Tell the student, you might even try with some classes to just go in and say, students, look, here's our objective, students. I did this once with a class. I had the freedom once with a new class. They were medical students. So I knew they were very good students, but I was supposed to teach them very boring English. And on the first, I was going to do a problem-based learning where I set it up with problem-based, but I went in the first day and I learned that those students were really good and they got things very quickly and they were bored easily. So you know what I did? I actually said, my syllabus, everybody rip it up. And I ripped my syllabus up. I ripped it up in front. I ripped up my syllabus and I had that freedom. I know you don't have that freedom, but I'm just showing you an example of how I adapt it. I ripped the syllabus and then I said, everybody rip your syllabus. Do it. We're not going to use it. Rip it up, rip it up. And then the next day I came, online, I showed them. And the next class we came in and we made the course. We designed the syllabus. We had the textbook. I did the job with them. They helped me do my job. I had already designed the course, but I threw it out. And I said, look, I can't design a whole new class right now myself. Help me. So I gave each group, I said, okay, what do you guys want to do? How do we do this? Do we have everybody doing the same thing? Okay, wait, you guys design units 1 and 2. Okay, these are our objectives. You guys cover that. How do we do that? And I had the groups immediately and they loved it. They designed a course for me. And once we designed the course, it took us about 2 weeks. It took us 4 classes. But then after that, we were so productive and the class was completely interesting after that because the students had designed everything and we were doing it as they wanted. And again, I said, hey, you guys, we have to cover the main objectives. And I was the teacher and I said, let me check. Okay, wait, you guys, we're not covering this. We need to put this in, right? We missed this, we missed. Okay, now it's good. Okay, what do you guys think? Let's vote. Do you guys like this? And they did. And we used that syllabus and we accomplished all the goals and it worked out well. And again, you maybe don't have the freedom to do that with a whole class and syllabus, but you might have freedom to do that within 1 unit. You might say, I don't know how to teach unit 5. How do we do it? Let's try. Again, it totally depends on how much time you have. And I know you guys often don't have a lot of time, but you can do it in small ways if you don't have time. You can actually, one little activity, you can get them to help you, get them to do your job. Involve them more, empower them more, trust them more, and they will trust you more. Again, if it doesn't work, you can always go back to the other method and you can tell them, look, we tried that, but we're just not getting through. We have a problem. We have to go back and do the book again. We have to go back to it because we have to we're kind of running behind. Let's get on the book for a while. And if we get ahead, then we can come back and try something else. Again, you can tell them. And then even when they go back to the book, it's the same old book, but they will find it more interesting because now they know why you're doing the same old book again, because you tried something else and you're behind and you maybe in the year try something new again. And they know that they have a little possibility of reward if they do well. Again, be real with the students, involve them more. That's what students today are better at. They're better at taking charge, but they don't know how to do it. They need guidance. But so you have to actually get them talking and get them trying to do it. And they realize, wait a minute, it's not so easy to be a teacher. And then you can show your expertise. You can say, well, actually, yeah, you're right, but you can do this. Did you think of that? you can do that. So it works out pretty well. Okay, we're getting near the end here. I'll go set this back up. By the way, don't worry, whoever hit this clear frame, I'll clear it. Boop, oops. I can just go set the background again. I can go find my picture and drop it right in here. It's no problem. You can grab ones too from the internet, and you can make albums. I should do that in case somebody does it. I didn't make an album, but you can do that. Put it on your Google Drive. Do I have it? I have a hike spot there. Okay. But again, you could just grab anything and throw it in there as your background, and you can make that background with anything. And then again, this is a little map of an area in Seoul. And then again, students can just come over top of it and put notes and do it just like that. So again, it's very easy to do your background. You can add it back in, but I'll put these backgrounds back in. This one is very general, but I'm very interested in you guys answering this one. What's the best way to teach students how to organize the resources? Okay, this is a quotation basically referring to the metacognitive economy. And some of you asked about that more, and I'll put a link to that about the idea of metacognitive economy. But again, give me more details here about how you think students can do that, especially maybe with smartphones. So I'll leave both of these. I'll put the links up for both of these Google Jamboards, and you can do it. And please, again, let's try not to, especially you can clear the background. You can fool around with the background all you want. It doesn't really matter, but don't clear the frame, because then we'll lose everybody's response. So try not to hit the clear frame button. Yeah. By the way, here's the second one. On the second board, right? You can put multiple boards, up to 20 boards on one for one class. So here's the second one. It's there for you to go ahead and put notes on it. Okay. Here's my basic suggestions. This is what I've come up with so far about smartphones. Have regular discussions with your students. Again, be honest with them. Just say, hey, these smartphones are a problem. Let's talk about it. Establish new norms that clarify responsible use. Again, don't just give them a rule. And again, clarify with them. Explain what you're doing. Make them agree to it because they come up with it too. Listen to what they have to say. Maybe you follow what they say. They have a better idea than what you have. Maybe it's different for each class. Again, you want to cultivate trust with them by bringing them into the conversation as much as you can. And you want to challenge them with these things. You don't want them to just be playing on their phones, right? But don't confuse it. Playing on a phone can be instructional. You know the difference because you're a good teacher. And again, you want to embrace things that look strange to you. If they're using something in a different way, ask them, hey, what's that? What did you just do? And then maybe you use it in your teaching. By the way, that's how I learned to use this program called Prezi. Again, you can go to Prezi.com up here. I learned from watching, I was using PowerPoint and other presentation tools, and a student was in one of their presentations used this. And I said, hey, wow, that's great. I like that. What is that? I'd never seen it. And then I just started using it. So do the same thing. Keep an open mind. Okay, our next webinar is going to be hopefully even more specific. I want to have this next one. I don't want to talk next one. I think I've said enough to you guys generally about things, and I've tried to apply it to one of your lessons. What I would like to do is to have all of us do that. Okay, so what I would like us to do next time is put us into breakout rooms as much as we can, and then have us work together in small groups, and I'll pop around into them and I'll give advice there specifically when I look at your materials there. So I'm hoping that you guys have materials, you know, like pull one of your lessons that you might try a new method with, or you're having trouble with, you know, bring an actual thing that you can show on your screen, you know, you can share. It's got to be shareable so we can all look at it and we can talk about it and decide. Let's be a teacher group that tries to solve your problem for you. Okay. So again, I hope that maybe you can upload those materials onto our website so I can look at those ahead of time and other people can look at them. But if not, by the next time we have the next webinar, have those ready. So when you're in the breakout room, you can pull up those materials and you can say, okay, here's what I'm trying to do and here's the problem I have. And again, problem-based learning. Let's begin with your materials. So the next time I'm not going to have hardly anything to say. I won't even maybe use Prezi. Maybe I'm just going to direct us into the Zoom and we're going to just begin with your problems. I'm going to try to do a problem-based kind of approach with our next webinar, where we just start out with what you guys have. So again, the success of our next, this is dangerous. It may not work well. I may have to talk a lot if it doesn't work, but I don't want to. And I'm willing to take the risk because the reward is very high with problem-based learning. We are going to use your real problems as the materials. And I don't know what I'm going to say or what I'm going to do, but I'm going to help you, I hope. And I hope we're going to help each other. Okay, so again, we'll put a space there for you guys to upload materials in a folder on the web page here. Again, I'll put that up here for today's under webinar 2, and then you can we'll look at those for next time. Okay. Does anybody have any last question? We have a minute or two. Anybody have any general? Is there anything that I said silly or dumb? Or again, I like to get feedback. You guys, I'm welcome to. I really like to get feedback. You can do that on the web page already. It has things like, I think it's referred to as burning questions here, this folder, this burning questions. Can you guys add a new topic? You guys have that access, right? Can you guys add a new discussion topic here? Can you guys put your problem here? I can add one here. Again, this would be feedback. Oops, not too many E's. Feedback for W2, webinar 2. Oh, okay. Put a little period there. Yeah, continue. Okay, there's one. So I think you guys could at least reply to that and add your, you know, your problems. Yeah, you're welcome. I think I'm done. I think we're all done. I'll stop sharing, and yeah. Hope that was helpful.
Thomas, could you send me again the request for the material development that you request all participants to do by November the 28th via email? Because I'm afraid that some participants may not access the Tech4Teach platform frequently. So we will send an emails to remind them of completing the assignments. And also, sure. you can also post that assignment on the Tech4Teach platform.
Sure, okay. And I can also include the link to my Prezi for this webinar as well for those who might have missed the lesson. Yeah.
Excuse me. Hello. I would like to have one question because I attended the webinar twice, but I cannot get the material of the lecture. I was assigned by my province to attend the meeting, and I was have to prepare as a teacher to the information what I get from the seminar. So I please summary check, and you please send me the lecture, the material by the speaker to our emails, so that we can get more information to share with as a teacher in my province.
Good idea. Okay, I agree with him.
Yeah, okay, because we have to transform the information to as a teacher. Is we are very in need of the material.
Yes, thank you. Can you send an email to Ms. Châu Hoàng Lan to the address that you see on the chat box, so that we will check if you have the account. You know, after every webinar, usually 1 week after the webinar, we will post the YouTube link of the webinar on the Tech4Teach platform, and you can share the YouTube link with your colleagues at home. Okay. So if you have not got an account to access the Tech4Teach platform, please send an email to Ms. Châu Hoàng Lan, and she will, you know, send you information to access the Tech4Teach platform. Okay.
Again. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Dong, I'll also include a Prezi PDF if I can put that on the website. I'll try putting it in a PDF form so you could have that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Sure.
I'm afraid this is the time, And today the lecture is very interesting because Thomas links the approaches of code designs and assessment to the textbooks of Vietnamese, the new curriculum of Vietnam. You know, Thomas learned about the curriculum and textbook of Vietnam, worked with our team at CML Retract to get the information about that. So you see in the lectures, he trying to connect to the curriculum and the textbooks of Vietnam. So that makes the lectures very practical to most teachers in Vietnam. And I appreciate that, Thomas. Thank you very much once again for the wonderful webinar today. And may I remind you that the next webinar will be on the first, December the 7th. Okay, so not next week, but the week after next. So see you again on Wednesday, December the 7th. Thank you very much and bye-bye. Have a good time, everyone. And don't forget to check email and access the Tech4Teach platform for other assignments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Thomas, for your wonderful lesson. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your
Thank you
for your time.
Yes.